If they stand out three-dimensionally for me, that means they pass to the other side.
Oh.
And the two youngest really stand out three-dimensional. So maybe somewhere during this time, those two were the first to go.
Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the slow burn storytelling podcast where our host, Nicola, challenges her psychic friend Darcy to communicate with the dead and unravel historical ghost stories, unsolved true crime mysteries, and all things paranormal. If you want to be spooked, amazed, and entertained, stick around for an astonishing, deep dive convo with the spirits on the other side. Radio Sydney presents Episode 18, The Vanishing Beaumont Children.
Hey, Darcy. Hello, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm really good tonight. Thanks, Darcy. Again, I've got, I think, a really interesting story for us to hear and some very key elements for you to play a part in. I'm always, as always, interested and excited to find out what you'll figure out before I even get a chance to practically open my mouth.
All right.
So I'm
ready to go.
Great. I'm going to say, what do you think of when a national holiday is mentioned? Do you think sunshine, hot weather, family get-togethers, heading to the beach, barbecues, ice cream? What comes to your mind?
Well, all of that comes to my mind, and then, of course, I jumped to the young girl who went missing in Spain.
Ah, yeah.
And at Madeline, or Madison.
Yeah, little Maddie, right.
Yeah, and I jumped to that.
Oh.
And that could be because of our show.
So do you think it would be any different on a beach near Adelaide on a day like January 26th in Australia, which happens to be their national holiday?
They would have shorts and their flip-flops on and their picnic baskets and heading down to the beach.
Exactly. Well, let's just say in Australia Day in 1966, beachgoers wouldn't have noticed anything hugely untoward. And yet, that's going to come later, Darcy. You see, on this episode of Seeing Dead People, we return down under to that intriguing land of Oz. As you may recall, we spent some time on Somerton Park Beach in South Australia in episode 10. That's where we investigated the bizarre and unsolved mystery of the still unidentified man found dead on the beach in 1948. Well, believe it or not, Darcy, today we find ourselves once again in South Australia, once again near the city of Adelaide, and once again we're on a beach. We're going to stroll north from Somerton Park Beach, where the man was found, along the Coastal Park Trail for about 25 minutes to another gorgeous sandy oceanfront section called Glenelg Beach. So, Darcy, let's get you into the picture. Please have a look at photo number 1, which is a map of Australia, with Glenelg Beach, which is marked by a blue dot and a white parasol.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who may not be looking at the photos at the moment, they're available on our website, by the way. I'll describe kind of the location. Just think of Australia as a clock, and imagine we're zoning in on about 6:30 p.m. I know it's early days yet, Darcy, but are you getting any inklings?
Well, I've already mentioned that the first person I thought of, strangely enough, before I opened this was Maddie, or Madison.
Yep.
So this has to be about children.
Okay.
Okay. And not sure, lost, stolen children. I'm not 100% sure, but feels I'm saying children, not just one child.
Yep. Well, I was about to comment on that because Maddie was one child, but you've used the plural, children.
Yes. And what I find interesting is, like, if I'm correct, the beach is in South Australia, correct?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And it sort of feels like if you went from where that beach, the little blue umbrella area is,
yep.
I sort of feel like you need to go up a little higher rather than down.
Okay, well, the only reason I was saying we would be moving up to Glenelg Beach is because Somerton Beach is just below that little blue dot where the G is on the word Glenelg. So it's very,
Okay.
they're incredibly close together, the two beaches, which I find, as I want you to look at in number two, photo number two, I think you'll be amazed to hear that two of Australia's most infamous unsolved crime mysteries occurred within 2 kilometers of one another. I hadn't realized this until I was fine-tuning my script for this episode, and then I just stopped dead, Darcy. I was stunned. Australia's a huge country geographically, has beaches up the yin-yang, and yet these two welcoming, wide, sandy coastal areas, so astonishingly close together, are the key sites to a pair of that country's most notorious crimes. So if you're looking at photo number 2, you'll see a Google Maps satellite image showing the south coast of Australia depicting Glenelg Beach and Somerton Park Beach. Aren't they incredibly close?
Yes, and when I looked at the icon with the umbrella in it, as I look at the Somerton Park Beach,
Yep.
that's the umbrella, like, it's the umbrella that stood out, which made me think I need to go north. And then I see that Glenelg Beach is north of
Somerton.
one beach.
Yep.
And right in the middle are the children's house.
I think it's an astonishing coincidence to have two incredibly serious mysteries occur that close together. Yes, it's like a number of years apart. I get that, but still, I'm sort of amazed at the proximity.
Yes. Wasn't
Somerton.
where the gentleman was found?
Exactly. That's where our fellow was who was unidentified, found on the beach.
Yeah.
Yep, the Somerton man. So, I know it's 18 years later, but really, I just, when you look at the size of Australia, it could have been anywhere. And yes, most of these things obviously happen where there are large cities or there are inhabitants, but I just was so struck by that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, who would have guessed such a large place that crimes would be committed that close to each other?
Yeah. Okay, well, now we're going to zero in on the actual location in Glenelg itself.
Okay.
Have a look at photo number 3. It'll show you a lovely palm tree lined street.
Ooh.
Now, this location is key to today's mystery. Are you getting any closer to knowing what's going on today, Darcy?
Okay. Well, you're referring to the mystery of the three. It's 4 children. Three children.
Wait,
And it's
how can you tell me that? How do you know that?
because I see 3 people together. Like, when I look, it's 3, 3, 3, 3. Like that, I'm picking out the 3 number, so it's got to be 3 children, and one must have been a toddler, because I feel like I'm stumbling and falling.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to have to unpack that a little bit because we're looking at photo number 3, correct?
No, 4.
Oh, okay, you move on to 4. Okay. We have a beach. We haven't got to 4, but we'll move on to 4. That's fine. This is the big...
There we are. Oh,
Sorry?
look. And there's 3 people there and 3 there and 1, 2, 3 over here. So, yeah. And then, of course, it's number 3.
Well, I was going to say the picture, photo number 3 is, from my perspective, Darcy, the only thing that's 3 in it is that I've written the number 3 because it's my photo number 3. So there's a few people scattered about. And on photo number 4, which you've gone on to with the big beach itself, there are some people scattered about. But you've zeroed in on 3 children, it seems to me. And you said one of the children might be a toddler.
Yeah, because I keep feeling like I'm falling, like when you're walking your kids and you're walking a little faster and the little one can't keep up to you, and your arm feels longer than it should be.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm feeling.
Wow. Okay.
So
You're nailing it again. We'll move on and we'll just keep on going, but I'm just always struggling to catch up because even though I've written the thing, I've got 10 pages of content. You're already on page 10 and I haven't even gotten through it yet. So you're astounding. So I'm just going to say we're going to dig deeper now and dive into this baffling crime, which represents one of the longest running investigations in the Australian history. In fact, though it occurred 55 years ago, the government still continues to post a 1 million Australian dollar reward for any relevant information. So let's move on to photo number 5, Darcy, and tell me what you see there.
Photo 5. Photo 5. Oh, okay. That looks like people looking for something.
Yep, so it's
I don't know if those are police officers. There's 5 people there. One looks like a boy, possibly a two young teens, a father, and I'm guessing maybe a grandfather because he looks older.
Yep, black and white pic, and they look like they're on a beach.
Yes.
Okay, well, we are at the heart of this disturbing cold case, Darcy. There are, as you say, 2 men, a teen, and 2 boys searching Glenelg Beach in the year 1966. And we are at the heart of this whole story is the answer to the one question every parent fears not knowing, and you will know it. Do you know where your children are?
This is when they started stranger danger, isn't it?
Ah, yes. This is a terrifying situation that Nancy and Jim Beaumont faced in the scorching heat in the midsummer afternoon of January 26th. In 1966, their 3 young children, a gal named Jane, age 9, a little gal named Arnna, age 7, and yes, a toddler, Grant, age 4. They left their home at 109 Harding Street in Somerton Park, in the same area, that same name as the guy from the Somerton Beach Mystery, a suburb of Adelaide, and they caught a bus to this Glenelg Beach. Now, this wasn't unusual for the times. In fact, the day before, their father Jim had dropped them off at the same beach, en route to an out-of-town business trip. Without a second thought, he confidently left his 9-year-old Jane in charge of her 2 younger siblings. So when the kids asked the next day to hit the sun and sand again, their mother happily agreed. Since it was too hot, a scorching 40 degrees Celsius, for the children to walk the 3 kilometers to the beach, Nancy popped her little ones onto a local bus and at 8:45 a.m. waved cheerfully as the bus rolled away into the distance. So, Darcy, what's the big deal about these 3 siblings?
Okay, I hear a dog barking when I look at the beach picture. I do see a ball, and I feel like someone's talking to them.
Okay.
But it sounds like a lady, not a man. And yet I would have said maybe the lady did talk to them, but the man has dark hair, I would say possibly oval. It seems like a longer shaped face. Mm-hmm. You know how some people have short faces? He's got a longer face. I would also say Caucasian. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to see if he has a hat on. Okay, there's something about his eyes that I can't really make out, and I can't tell if that's because he's wearing a hat.
Okay.
Well, we know the children never made it home.
Well, we do now.
oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's what you do. No, we didn't know that until you said that. So Nancy expected her precious trio to return home, hungry and tired, on the noon bus. But when they didn't skip off the bus or the next one, Nancy's fears leapt in her throat. Her husband Jim arrived home from his business trip about 3 p.m., and after a panicked Nancy quickly filled him in, he immediately drove to the crowded beach, while Nancy remained home in case the little ones showed up. When Jim searched the beach and area, he couldn't find his kids, so he raced back home, hoping they were there, safe. All he found was poor Nancy, stricken in fear. The pair began searching the nearby streets and dropping in on friends, desperate to find their kids. At 5:30 p.m., the now frantic parents went to Glenelg police station and reported their dear children were missing. So a massive search was undertaken of Glenelg Beach and the surrounding areas. There were no signs of the kids. The search was expanded to nearby buildings, sand dunes, like we've seen in photo number 5, the ocean itself, and along with monitoring of the airport, the railway, and interstate roads, because authorities now feared possibly a triple kidnapping. Sadly, nothing of the two girls or their little brother was found. Not even one of the 17 items the children were carrying. No towels found, no bags, no clothing. Not one piece was ever found. So Jane, Arnna, and Grant Beaumont disappeared on that day and have never been seen of or heard from since. So Darcy, let's have a look at photo number 6. It's another map which shows the children's home in relation to the beach. As you noted earlier, it's quite close.
Yeah. So when they checked the water, to the best of your research, and everything says if the children were in the water, they never would have found them. But I want to say that they are on the beach, but in a different location.
Okay.
Every time I look at picture number 5, all I can think is go north of where they are.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm really bad with directions. If I was standing outside, I could figure it out. But inside a house, I get totally turned around. And but I keep hearing go north of where they are. So if north is the way the older gentleman is looking, I would say he needs to go that way. From your picture number 5, I think they're part of the search.
They're telling you to go north, or you're telling them to go north?
I'm telling them to go north. I know it's a little late.
Oh, okay. You're saying for them, where they're looking is not the place to look.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really interesting. Of course, there were many tips from people who believed they'd seen the children. Several witnesses claimed the kids were accompanied by a man. Before I tell you the description, tell me what you think. If you think you mentioned a woman, do you have any sense of who they might have been with, if they were with anybody?
Okay. Well, the description I gave of the man, the Caucasian, dark hair, oval, longer, tight face, clean shaven by the feels of it, and like I said, I don't know if he had a cap on or not.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't feel is the connection. And when I say that, what I mean is I don't feel he was family.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, witnesses claim that the kids were playing with a tall, thin, suntanned, fair-haired 30-something man in a bathing suit. The children appeared happy and comfortable playing with the man, and then they cheerfully walked away with him around 12:15 p.m. Now, when the parents learned this, they were very puzzled because they believed and said their children were shy, particularly the eldest, Jane. So investigators figured they must have met this man, possibly on their previous visit the day before or on other visits. Nancy then remembered an odd comment from her younger daughter, Arnna, who had declared in a typical little kid's sing-songy, teasing voice that Jane had a boyfriend at the beach. Of course, Nancy dismissed it at the time, figuring Arnna meant a playmate of similar age. But of course, that then became quite a serious thing. Who might she have been talking to? As the days passed, other witnesses came forward with stories of seeing the children alone on that fateful morning. A postman saw them walking hand in hand down a nearby street, and then another woman spotted them near the beach with a man carrying an airline bag, which was similar to the one that was owned by Jane. A local baker's observation appeared very telling. He said Jane came in and bought pasties and meat pie using a pound note. This was significant because the baker had seen the kids on previous visits, but they'd never bought a meat pie before, and also Jane's mother had not given her any pound paper money. She gave her shillings and pence. So who slipped the eldest Beaumont child a pound note? These sorts of jumpstart your heart but lead to disappointment events continued for many, many months because nothing ever came of it. Weeks later, another woman came forward claiming to have seen the children taken to a nearby empty house. When she kind of paid attention to the house the next day, it appeared deserted. No one came out of it. She never saw anybody again, and she never thought to report it till much, much later. So, Darcy, I'm hoping the little kids are going to be helpful to us and speak to you. So I'd like you to look at photo number 7. which is the front page of the local paper when this whole event happens. Have a look and tell us what you see.
Well, I see the two girls. I'm going to say Jane and
Arnna.
Arnna.
Yep.
And then Grant.
Yep.
Strange. I see, this may be my confusion, because when I look at Jane in this picture, it looks like she has blonde hair. And yet I don't think she was blonde, was she?
No, she wasn't. I think it's probably just the kind of photograph of the time and how poorly it's transposed to today.
Well, Jane and Grant look like really happy children. Arnna,
yeah, very odd name.
Doesn't look as very happy. But they do look well taken care of. I hear singing, so I would say they love to sing and to read. And I'm also taking this was done at home.
Say the last thing again.
The picture was taken at home.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but that's interesting. Okay. Well, weeks went by with no real leads, no clues, and no real sightings. Sadly, hoax letters were sent, supposedly from a man who claimed to have the Beaumont children. The writing resembled Jane's, so police thought it might be genuine, but nothing came of it either. And many years later, in fact in 1992, a forensic exam identified the fingerprints and proved the letters were a hoax. It was discovered they were written by a man who had been a teenager at the time, who sent them in as a joke.
Oh.
Some sick joke. So let's spend some time with each of the children and see whether they'll open up to you. I'm going to give you another shot of the three children themselves as a group. Have a look at number 8, and then we'll go into them individually. So just have a look at that family shot and tell us what you think.
Well, again, very well-adjusted children, and yes, Jane has darker hair.
Yep.
And so does Arnna. She has all of them have dark hair.
Yep.
I would say Jane might be more a loner than she is, as like the two younger ones seem to be closer.
Yeah.
And Jane seems to be more of a loner. And I definitely could say Grant's not on this earth anymore. And neither is Arnna.
So
Jane, I'm not 100% sure of yet.
Okay.
I think I need to look a little deeper.
So when you say something like that, how do you come to that conclusion, Darcy?
Because when I look at pictures, they're either three-dimensional for me, so the people stand out,
right,
or they're flat.
Okay.
And if they're flat, it means they're alive.
If they're flat, they're alive. Okay.
Yeah. If they stand out three-dimensionally for me, that means they've passed to the other side.
Oh.
And the two youngest really stand out three-dimensional. So maybe somewhere during this time, those two were the first to go.
Oh, okay. And then when you're looking at Jane, is she flat or is she somewhat three-dimensional?
She's somewhat three-dimensional, but I think she died after the fact.
After the other two?
Yes.
Or you mean after the whole event? Like years later?
No, definitely after the first two.
Okay.
After the first two youngest.
Okay, well, let's see what the kids can tell you themselves. So let's move on to photo number 9, and we'll see little Grant, who looks like a really devilish little cutie. He's holding a little toy. What do you say about that little man?
Well, you're right. He's definitely cute. He wasn't afraid. Like, whoever he was with, he wasn't afraid of them. He felt safe.
Okay.
I don't hear him saying, I want to go home. Okay, so obviously he was having a lot of fun.
Okay.
I do see sand all around him, so I would tell you he probably was at one point, given the way the tides and everything changed. I think at one point he may have been buried somewhere in a box with sand.
Oh, really?
I thought it was on the beach, but I might be wrong here. I wonder if there's a house that you could go under, like, you see the houses that are on the cliff and they've got the cavern and there's still sand inside of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of the old-fashioned sort of cellar basement idea.
Yeah.
Ooh. Do you, when you're talking to someone who's 4 years old, how is your conversation with this little guy? Is there a real conversation, or are you just getting sort of senses, thoughts?
It's images. He's not really talking.
Okay.
It's more images. It's more he wants to play. He wants to have fun. Why should I stop playing when this is fun?
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. We haven't, I don't think, had you engaged with a really small child before.
He is the youngest one I've ever engaged with.
4 years old. That's pretty young, isn't it? It's very, what a little guy. He had no life at all.
No.
Okay, well, let's move on to the youngest daughter, whose name is quite an original one. I like it, Arnna. She's 7. And I would say she seems to me a little less open, and you had noticed that in the photograph on the front page of the newspaper. She seems to be a little bit of a more withheld individual. What do you think?
Well, she's a thinker. She likes to analyze things. She didn't really like the man but he liked him because he didn't really pay attention to her. She just had that sense of freedom of being on the beach and enjoying it. I'm almost certain the youngest two are together, and that Jane is somewhere else.
And when you say the youngest two are together, you mean the youngest two are buried somewhere together?
Yes.
And you can see that how?
Because there's a jointness between them. It's like magnets pulling each other together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you seeing an image of that? Are you getting a feeling of that?
Both. It's like the picture 9 and 10 just want to come together.
Oh, really?
Okay. And picture 11 of Jane
Yep.
wants to be part of it, but also stands to the side because now I feel fear around her.
Oh.
Okay. So that's interesting. I think he took the two youngest to keep her in line.
Well, I was going to say, I think Jane might be the key to this terrible tragedy.
Well, yes, because I think he's focused on her because she's his type. But when she decided she wanted to go home, he took the two youngest to keep her in line.
So when you say took the two youngest, he literally took the two youngest with him, and she had to follow along because what else could she do?
Because she was responsible for her brother and sister.
Right. So she had to go with him.
Yes.
Now, can I ask you the conversation, if I can call it that you're having now with Jane? How is it compared to the other two?
Well, to begin with, she was flattered by the attention because this guy isn't like an adult.
Okay.
Like he's not like 40. He's younger.
Okay.
And she was feeling a little, well, it's been a long time since I've been 9 years old. But 9 years old, when someone's being nice to you, it's easy to respond to it.
Sure, of course you're flattered. Yeah, attention.
And he gave her the money to be able to buy sweets and stuff, which she wouldn't have gotten so much from her own mother.
Right.
Or father.
So do you see this fellow as being the boyfriend that little Arnna said she had?
Yes. Yes.
And has this man met these children before?
Oh, definitely. When you said the father dropped them off the day before, that's exactly what I thought happened.
What did you think?
And that they met them then, and they actually wanted to go back.
The next day.
Yes. Jane couldn't go by herself because the mom wouldn't let her, but if she took her brother and sister, she could go.
So you're saying somebody approached Jane and the kids the day before and flattered Jane, and they had fun, and Jane was feeling special, and she wanted to go back and meet him the next day.
Yep.
Wow. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense. So, Darcy, in the end, what do you think was the motive? You and I have just talked about the fact that Jane met this man and was kind of flattered. What was the motive to this crime? We think he was attracted to Jane in particular. It's pretty daring, don't you think, to lure 3 children away, somehow get them in a house, do things to them if you're going to do things to them, and then dispose of their bodies? So, like, what kind of person does this, Darcy, and what really happened, do you think?
Well, I'm going to guess here that pedophile.
Yep.
He got scared when the kids started to cry and carry on, and he crime of passion. You know, he reacted to it. Now, my guess too is that there is a feasibility. This isn't the first time he's done it. It's just this feeling I'm getting, like this is too practice.
Ah, okay. But when you're talking about him not reacting well to the children getting upset, are you actually seeing them together after the beach?
Yes, because by a certain time when the sun started going down, they wanted to go home.
And of course he wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
Are you able to tell us now what actually happened?
Well, the 2 little ones, honestly, it feels like it was fast.
Oh, thank goodness.
Okay. Jane might have been a couple of days.
Oh. So he was a pedophile who wanted to abuse her.
Yeah, but wherever he had them, you can't hear them.
Oh, okay. So perhaps, would you say a rural site or a very soundproof site or what?
An isolated site.
An isolated site. Okay.
Would you know if the little girl, Arian, if she had a doll with her?
I don't know. I know they had, as I say, 17 little possessions. She may well have had one, but I have no information on that. Do you see her having one?
Yeah, you see her with a little doll. They're like Raggedy Ann type
Yes.
doll.
Okay.
But not with the plaid on. More like if Mom had made this for her.
Oh, okay. Gee,
Okay.
yeah.
And I definitely have the ball, and sort of like that. I'm going to call it a seahorse, you know, where you put it around your waist.
Oh, okay.
Blow-up toy.
Yeah. Do you think those might have been given to them by the guy?
Well, I don't feel like the doll. I think she took with her.
Okay.
As for the rest, well, I know he's given them something, but it's not in that list of 17 things.
Okay, well then before we meet the suspects, let's have a look and meet the parents, Jim and Nancy Beaumont. Now it's photo number 12, and it's a shot where they're happy. It's obviously taken before their beloved children vanished. Can you glean anything from this couple, Darcy?
I think they were loving and kind to each other and their children. Family was important. They're a striking couple.
Yeah.
And they look like they're what I would say in the 1966, so above the poverty line.
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, they're just normal. And I don't know, the term normal is very loosely used around me, but I would say normal.
Yeah. Just an average family and an average couple. Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I think it's important and heartbreaking to note that the disappearance of these children changed societal mores and parenting in Australia. The vanishing of these little kids ended what was considered to be an innocent age for the country, and ever after, parents have feared for their children's safety when unsupervised in public. They hadn't before that. So isn't that a terrible shame?
It is, but at that time and frame, it wasn't uncommon for parents to leave their children on their own.
Yep, and they were safe to do so.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to meet the main suspects now. Before I tell you anything about them, I'm going to introduce you and let you interrogate them yourself one at a time. So look at photo number 13. This is just a sketch, an identikit sketch that was undertaken based on witness interviews. This is what they think the man who was with the children might have looked like. And one thing that struck me, you said a longer face, and this individual definitely has a longer face.
Yes. I know they said sun-baked swimmer, but Caucasian.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And close, but I still think something's missing because I swear this man has dark hair.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. I don't know. They continue to say fair-haired, but let's go along. So we're going to look at and meet the first of our suspects. It's a black and white picture of a fellow whose name is Bevan Spencer von Einem. So have a look at Bevan von Einem and tell me what you think of him.
Well, I would say sociopath.
You say that so casually.
Oh my God, just looking at his eyes.
He does look pretty ferociously awful, doesn't he? There's just something
Yes,
about
he
that
does.
stare.
I mean, he's guilty. I'll give him something of that. He's guilty of something. So it makes me think that maybe he's been listed as a pedophile.
Uh-huh.
So I think he's guilty, but the kids wouldn't have responded to that look, not whatsoever.
Okay. Well, you're, I think, right. Von Einem was a murderer, actually, and he was sentenced to life in prison for murdering a 15-year-old boy. Now, he supposedly boasted about luring 3 children from a beach and spiriting them home to experiment on. He was known to prowl on Glenelg Beach, preoccupied with sneaking into the changing rooms and trying to sneak a peek at children. However, at the time that he was considered too young, he was just 20, to match the 30-ish kind of description of the perp, and he targeted older children, so he was never charged. Now I'm going to introduce you to the next possibility. Now, this is a photograph of a fellow many, many years later. His name is Arthur Stanley Brown. He's our next possible perpetrator. What do you get from Arthur? Notice the long, narrow face.
Yeah. Now, if he was in his, and I know they say 30s, but I would have said 20, 25 maybe. So, you know, the Bevan, yes, he's guilty definitely of the murder, but his preference was boys.
Yeah, I believe that was thought about, yes.
Yeah. This guy, well, it would have been better to see a younger picture of him, but boy.
This is a photograph of him. It must be in his 80s.
At least.
Do you think he is a nasty dude?
Yes, I do. I don't think it's like, I don't feel it's like their grandfather. Okay. He's a little psychotic, maybe not a sociopath as bad as Bevan, but there's definitely a vacantness. Like, you know, like, you ever seen someone who, it doesn't look like their soul is 100% there?
Exactly. I was going to say, lacking a soul. Shark's eyes.
Yeah, that's how he reminds me.
Okay, well, he is a bad dude. He got away scot-free until he was sentenced in 1992. So he's like made it to his 80s before he got into trouble for the strangulation and murder of 2 sisters in 1970. So only 4 years after these gals, this little family disappeared. He has a striking resemblance to that identikit look. You can see he's got the long, narrow face. But no evidence ever connected him to Adelaide in 1966. He did wear the glasses, the horn-rimmed glasses that were mentioned by one witness, but at the time he was 53. So he's way too old for even the 30-ish perp that was thought to be seen, much less your 20-something perp.
Yeah. Like, I'm the worst person to age someone, okay? Because I'm looking inside to see what they're looking like. But there's no way, again, the person I'm seeing is young and beautiful.
Oh, The kind of person a 9-year-old girl would certainly fall for.
He's like someone who could pull off, like, I've had people mistake me as Sigourney Weaver, okay?
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I don't bother correcting them, or Susan Sarandon.
Yeah, take it as a compliment.
I do. So whoever this person is, he could have passed as someone she saw on TV.
Okay, well then let's meet suspect number 3. Maybe he's the one. Have a look at the next photo, number 16. Fellow named James O'Neill. I'll tell you why he's pointing in a minute. Okay.
Now, there is a possibility here. He fits into the time frame. He's a little chunkier than I thought he'd be.
Okay.
And, like, there is that opening that I saw.
What do you mean opening?
Well, the ground doesn't quite meet the hedge.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Did he say he found something there that was connected to the kids?
No, don't get confused by that. He's showing us something, and I'll tell you what it is, but it's not related to this case.
But it's related to a case.
It's related to a case, absolutely.
Okay, is there a C or D initial connected to this case?
Frig, I don't know the name of I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. But is it like a grave?
Yes, he's actually pointing at a location where he dumped the body of a 9-year-old boy in 1975 in Tasmania.
Okay.
So he's been in jail for that. He claims never to have visited Adelaide, and there's really no evidence against him, except he confessed to 2 documentary filmmakers. That was discounted by police. So,
yeah, my thing is he's grandstanding.
You think so?
Yeah. But he looks like the person I'm seeing is slender, stretch him a little bit more, because I'm guessing this guy is maybe 5'9".
Yeah, he's a bit short, I'd say, yep.
And the guy I'm looking at is at least 5'10" to 6 feet tall, slender.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's look at our last suspect. We haven't found our guy, or maybe we will. Have a look at the next photo, number 17. This is a fellow named Harry Phipps. What do you think of Harry?
Familiar. Okay, that name's familiar.
Harry Phipps is?
Yeah. I do not know why.
Okay.
But he's on. I'm going to guess that he's been in trouble.
Yep.
Okay. And so here, I just saw a flash of something. Is there, I guess no one would really know, we need the children. Is there a chance that they may have met this man at a party connected to their parents?
I guess there's a certain possibility, but I don't know.
So I think there is a possibility that there's more than just that connection at the beach.
Oh, okay. Where do you get that?
Well, it was just a flash that came into my head.
A flash image? A flash bunch of words? A flash idea?
Like just a flash image.
And the image was what?
He knew the children recognized him, and were able to call him Uncle something. You know how when we're introduced to people back then, it's always, this is your aunt, this is your uncle?
Right.
We were never introduced to them as Mr. and Mrs.
Correct.
It's like he's saying, don't you remember me? I'm your uncle. I want to say Dave. So obviously, this Harry family didn't believe that he was guilty.
Why do you say that?
Because I know he's guilty of misdemeanors. But his family seems to be standing by him.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, this fellow was considered to be having a face similar to the identikit of the guy who met the kids on the beach. He was wealthy and known to hand out pound notes. He was discovered to have pedophilia interests. He lived very close to the beach. Some boys claimed that he paid them to dig a large hole in his factory yard on that weekend. That yard was dug up many decades later and nothing was found. His own son, though, claims that he saw children in his dad's yard the day the Beaumonts disappeared, but that's never been proven. So he was never charged. So it seems to me none of these four guys are the fellow you're seeing.
I wouldn't say that. I'm saying his son is saying his dad's innocent, but this is the kind of face I'm looking for.
Oh.
When I look at this picture, he has darker hair. It's not blonde.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and he's got the charisma.
He sure does. Well, you know how they would put oil in their hair all the time? So you could have a fair-haired guy, and he never looked fair-haired until he was just washing his hair or on the beach. You'd notice he was actually fair-haired.
Brill cream.
Yeah, that's it, brill cream. Yeah, I never knew why they did that, but anyway, it was a style.
It allowed it to stay neat and tidy.
Yeah, that was important, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, my dad made me use it for my frizz.
I would have liked to have seen you with brill cream.
Oh, no, it doesn't look good.
So do you think it's a possibility Harry Phipps is the man who abducted and we believe, murdered the 3 Beaumont children?
Okay, I'm going to get you to ask me that question again.
Okay. Do you think Harry Phipps is the man who abducted and murdered the 3 Beaumont children?
No.
Okay.
No. I was looking for the answer.
Yeah, and you got no.
I got no.
Okay, so we don't know who that person is. We do not even have him as far as I know, as a suspect. There were other suspects, but I didn't show them to you, Darcy, because they were immediately ruled out for good reason.
Okay, yeah, well, a lot of them had alibis and stuff. But it makes me... I would have loved to have seen a picture of the son.
Of Harry Phipps's son?
Yeah.
Well, remember, Harry Phipps's son would have been, well, as far as we know, about 15 years old at the time, so he'd be way too young to be involved.
Yeah, but he could have lured the kid.
Yes? You mean he could have worked with his dad?
Nah.
Okay.
That's a no.
And
but there's my thing, because I heard the lady's voice at the very beginning, and then I heard the man, so maybe the lady was the initiator, and the man took over.
well, I would
When
think...
I say man, I mean, if they're over 24,
Yep.
I'd really be surprised.
They're that young.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
I can
interesting.
imagine this little girl going for an old man.
Well, neither can I. Even someone, I don't know, in their mid to late 30s, it's pretty old for a 9-year-old. But a 21-year-old is right up there.
Yeah.
Do you still think Jane had survived a few days or a day or two before she was killed?
At least a day before she was killed.
And how do you get
And
that
they
impression?
are all dead. I'm
So-
just looking at your last picture.
You're looking at the number 18, the 3 kids?
Yeah.
They're all dead.
Yeah.
Jane's standing out.
They're all standing out.
Oh, frig. What a terrible
really,
thing.
It's really ironic that the girls are holding peace lilies.
I was wondering what those are, but you're right on. I couldn't quite take them on, but now I can see very clearly, especially with Jane's hands, she's got a peace lily in it. Very clearly to see. Yeah, it's even got the white outline.
Yeah.
Well, as as we know in the world anyway, the fate of these children is unknown and unsolved. Obviously, you can imagine this was terribly distressing and damaging to their parents. Nancy, who died at 92 in 2019, and Grant, he was nicknamed Jim. He's still alive in his 90s. For a while, they remained in their home, of course, fearing that if they moved, the children might not find them if they returned. They were forced to experience endless supposed sightings and ridiculous claims like the kids were in a cult. They were seen in New Zealand. They were seen in Melbourne, you know. So many claims of them being seen as it was an endless nightmare for the parents. So not surprisingly, the Beaumonts eventually divorced. They eventually sold the house, and they tried to have the rest of their lives without this issue. But of course, they really couldn't. There have been many books, articles, TV, podcasts, television shows. And then there was a really sad event in 1990. In the sort of endless search for lurid headlines, the local press published photographs of how the children might look as adults. The parents were terribly against this publication, and they were devastated to see the published photographs. And a massive wave of sympathy followed for them from the public. But what good did it do for Jim and Nancy Beaumont? Just another heartache to see what they've missed. The vanishing of these children remains one of Australia's most notorious unsolved case, as I said earlier. It continually received leads and clues. It continues to be in the news. But, of course, nothing has been resolved. There's not one single hint as to what happened to Jane, Arnna, and Grant Beaumont on January 26, 1966. The three young siblings have just disappeared, leaving their parents lost and brokenhearted, and their country's innocence forever lost. So, any last comments before we let the Beaumonts go?
Well, most importantly, I wish they rest in peace.
Yes.
And I still say from where they looked, they needed to go north.
So you're talking about those who are trying to find their bodies.
Yep. I still think at least one, if not two, they're going to be able to still find, but it's to the north of where the children went missing.
Wow. Well, they're continuing to look, so perhaps they will find them.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Darcy. That was really interesting. And again, you nailed it pretty early on that it was about missing children. And then the key was children, even though you said it reminded you of the gal in Spain, Maddie. But you knew there was more than one. And then you knew there was one of them was a toddler. I'm just always astounded how you can glean this stuff. It's amazing. So I want to...
You know how a toddler grabs the parent's leg?
Yes, and kind of pulls at you.
Oh, I knew it was a toddler.
Yeah, you could sort of feel that being pulled, eh?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. You have that distinctive feeling. That's so cool. Man, thank you.
Well, I know one thing about these children. As much as I would not have wanted to be their parents and go through that devastation, I am going to say the children are at peace.
Okay, that's good. And maybe they're seeing their mom.
I would say yes.
Yeah, and they could be welcomed by their father sometime in the future.
Pretty soon.
Yeah, I guess poor guy's in his 90s. It's a tough life, that's for sure. You lose your entire family in an instant. And to have no idea what happened to them. My goodness, I don't know how you survived that.
Well, could have happened when it was on his watch. And that's one of the things he forgot.
When you say forgot, what do you mean?
Well, I think he blamed Mum because she put them on the bus and let them go on their own.
Yeah.
But he forgets that he dropped them off at the beach the day before on their own.
Right, so they were both, well, they both responded as typical parents of the time.
Yes, they did.
And I believe Nancy was, pilloried in the public for having done just that, even though every other mother at the time and father were probably doing exactly the same thing.
They were. Happen to know my parents were.
Really appreciate your time, as always, Darcy.
Okay, well, I enjoy this very much, and I look forward to our next one.
Good.
Thank you for listening to Seeing Dead People, where goosebumps are guaranteed. We would love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. Please shoot us an email to info@radiosydney.ca with seeing dead people in the subject line. New episodes air on our website, radiosydney.ca, on the first Saturday of every month. Episodes repeat Saturday nights at 8 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., both Pacific time. All episodes are available as downloadable podcasts at our website or on our YouTube channel, Nicola Furlong Mysteries. I'm Dorian Mortis, weirdly keen on seeing dead people.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.